Hi, Kriegspielers. It's Umpire LaFondios. We're going to talk about the concept today of center of gravity. Center of gravity goes all the way back to Clausewitz, who defined it as the hub of power and movement. So you picture a wagon wheel where the center of gravity was the hub and all the troops were the spokes in the rim. Marine Corps doctrine, specifically what you see on the image here of the manual warfighting, which came out in 1989, defines the center of gravity as the source of strength, balance, or stability necessary for military force to maintain operation. So it's all about this idea of a source of power. So traditionally, this is defined as logistics, command and control, the cause that people are riding to, or the people themselves. These are all seen as sources of strength. And if you look it up online, there are many, many definitions of center of gravity. But we're not here to make it complicated. We're here to simplify it so we can use it to play Kriegspiel more effectively. So I'm going to offer a definition for Kriegspiel of center of gravity is that which enables a force to concentrate powerfully. So let's take a look at an example of that. So let's say that you're the Red Force and you have to attack across this river. You've got a couple of infantry across the river. In the north, where it's circled, there's cavalry. In the south, you see artillery. And then back behind, you have information that there's a reserve that can come up and support the third or head south and support some other unit. So in this situation, you look at that and say, well, I don't know what the center of gravity could even be in that. So we'll talk that through. But first of all, the center of gravity is not troop strength. So here's an example where the red on the right have 5 infantry and 1 cavalry. The blue on the left have 3 infantry and 1 cavalry. So you would think, oh, well, there's more gravity because there's more troops with the red. But let's say in this example that the red commander just has decided he's going to take a broad front strategy and he's going to send people all over the place, and he follows those red arrows, and the blue decides to concentrate. Well, you can then have 3 infantry and 1 cavalry hitting 1 red infantry, and they're going to, with those odds, likely defeat them, and then they can move to the next and the next. So in this case, even though there's more troops on the red, blue has a more effective center of gravity because they were able to concentrate more powerfully. So this is an idea that you want to absorb when we talk about center of gravity. So these are the elements that I would propose in Kriegspiel. I might be wrong. Talk about it in the comments, right? So I'm totally fine to learn more about it myself. But I think there's 3 things that allow for a Kriegspiel force to concentrate powerfully. First and foremost is the plan. If the plan is clear, if everyone knows what they're doing without having to be told specifically, and everyone moves in concert, they will concentrate powerfully. So the plan itself is one element of a Kriegspiel center of gravity. The second is the ability to adjust forces. So because we have fog of war and we have distributed communications, anytime you alter the plan, there can be mistakes, there can be miscommunication, there can be umpires that deliver things at the time you don't expect. All sorts of things will impact the ability to adjust. So leadership communication is actually a center of gravity for a Kriegspiel force. And finally, indirect support. These are the things that we don't think about a lot. So I've got a blue circle around artillery in this case. And artillery is an indirect support that can inflict damage without being in a melee situation. And so that is also a center of gravity because it allows a force to concentrate powerfully quickly because you can move the artillery. So I think these are 3 things to simply focus on when you think about center of gravity in Kriegspiel. So what do you do? So first of all, defend your own center of gravity. So you want your plans to be uncomplicated and clear. 2, adjustment. When you're in the middle of a battle, you want the navigation and communication to be really easy. You want your leaders to be placed in a way they can communicate with their units, but also send messages to each other. You want to think that through versus just have your leaders be where they are without thinking about other leaders. So leader placement is really important. Finally, think of your indirect assets first. So usually we move our infantry and say, oh my gosh, I have this cavalry, or oh my gosh, I have this artillery off to the side. No, start with your artillery, then move your infantry. All of this will empower your center of gravity in Kriegspiel. And next you want to attack or disrupt their center of gravity. So You want them to believe no plan survives first contact with the enemy, and you have actually successfully disrupted their center of gravity if they're saying to each other in dispatches, our plan is totally out the window. That's wonderful, because that's the center of gravity that's been successfully disrupted. If an enemy is fighting their plan, that means they're fighting with concentration of power, and that's not good. So you want to figure out a way to have their plan go right out the window. Second, do things to keep their headquarters moving so they can't communicate as effectively. And that could be as easy as cavalry kind of threatening a headquarters. If you see a headquarters on the map, just move something toward it a little bit. Force the headquarters to move, because that makes it harder for them to find each other and harder for them to communicate. And umpires will penalize the moving headquarters, so keep that in mind. And indirect support, if you see it, disrupt it. If there are guns, send something over to move them. Do not let artillery or air or indirect support just sit in place and hammer you. You want to disrupt it. So if you defend yours and attack theirs, you will be using center of gravity in a very practical way on the board to concentrate powerfully while you defeat the enemy. So let's go back to that original example and talk in very specifics about how it works. So you're the red force, you're going to come in, you can say, okay, I have the situation described earlier. Number one, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attack that indirect support, because I want it to, I don't necessarily have to destroy it, I just want to move it, I want it to limber, I want it to stop firing. So I'm going to create a detachment that is not just cavalry. It can have some infantry in it, it can have whatever will work, but I want to move to the left or the south and threaten those guns. Second, I want to use that detachment to go to where the red X is, so that the reserve commander sees me on the hill. And the reason for that is I'm going to create a question in his mind. I think maybe something big is coming from the south. And this is really important, because this actually will degrade the ability to make a decision, which is a center of gravity, an attack on their center of gravity. So then in the second case, then I take my red force and I come in and I hit those infantry. And what I've done, if I've done this well, is I've created a disagreement between the third commander and the fourth commander about where the force should go. Because the third will say, hey, I got a big force coming my way, come help me out. And the fourth will say, yeah, I hear you, but I'm not sure if there's something coming to the south, so I need to wait. That waiting is actually disruption of their center of gravity. Okay, and it advantages you. Because in the third case, or number three, you've created a question mark about what's coming, and in maneuver warfare terms, it's a phantom. You've created a phantom in their minds that slows down their decision making. So what you've done is you have concentrated your force powerfully at number two to hit those infantry, but you have decreased their ability to concentrate powerfully by creating phantoms, by creating noise in their system, and by creating disagreement between their commanders. That is how center of gravity can work in a very practical way for Kriegspiel, and how you can become a better commander. And so the Field Marshal here gives you the advice, of course, make sure when you play to center your gravity. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much, and we'll see you out on the board.